Hi students, today we will discuss lesson 19, Industrial Class Structure and Middle Classes in India. Industrial Revolution has brought about far-reaching consequences in the structure of societies. It has led to the establishment of industrial society. In the simplest sense, an industrial society is a social system whose mode of production focuses primarily on finished goods manufactured with the aid of machinery. The basic elements of industrial social structure are: the economy is industry based, the society is divided into number of classes, for example, the capitalists, the workers and the petty shopkeepers. There is emergence of number of professional and technical jobs requiring special knowledge and training. There is rapid means of transport and a wide network of communications which have been developed. The system of production, distribution and exchange is different. It is based on use of mechanical power. Large scale production of goods and use of new technology in the system of production is the most important feature of industrial society. Migration to cities has led to breakdown of agricultural economy and also the disappearance of the joint family system. A system of nuclear families has emerged. After the completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand the industrial class structure, analyze the emergence and characteristics of Indian middle class. Features of industrial social structure. Apart from industry-based economy, emergence of professional jobs and development of rapid means of transport and communication, the other important features of social structure of industrial society are: emergence of modern family. The family in industrial society has moved from an institution to companionship, from a production to consumption unit. It now no longer performs the functions which it did in the pre-industrial society. Even the functions of childbearing and rearing are differently performed in the industrial society. The family members of industrial society are individualized in their outlook. In short, the structure and functions of the family in industrial society are different from those in the agrarian society. Family and kinship as social institutions have lost many of its functions. Kinship ties are also weakened. Kinship does not play an important role in unifying and controlling people. The immediate neighbors often become more important than the distant kins. Economic institutions. The most important difference between industrial and pre-industrial society can be seen in the structure of economic institutions. The industrial society is marked by a new system of production, distribution and exchange. In place of households, there are factories where the work is divided and specialized. Ownership has been separated from control. The large industrial business such as Tatas and Birlas is owned not by one man but by millions of people. The stockholders among whom this diversified ownership is spread do own their companies, but they delegate control of the corporation to salaried management. There is collective ownership with capitalism and all its necessary features in industrial society. Thus, it is marked by the institutions of private property, division of labor, profit, competition, wage and credit. The growth of trade unions is also an important feature of industrial society. Occupational subcultures. There is extreme division of labor in industrial society. As industrialism spreads and population grows, division of labor becomes highly complex. Industrial society creates new specialized jobs. More and more statuses are achieved rather than ascribed. These occupational subcultures protect their participants from the members of another status. The industrial society, as it is marked by extreme occupational specialization, is thus fragmented by occupational subcultures. Impersonality of relationship. An industrial society is marked by impersonal rather than personal relationships. Occupational specialization contributes a good share to impersonality of industrial life. The secondary character of association, the multiplicity of occupations, the specialization of functions and areas, and competitiveness narrow the attachments and detract the individual from a feeling of identification with the entire society. Social mobility. Industrial social structure is marked by social mobility. The members of industrial society can by his achievement raise or lower his status during his lifetime. The role of caste as a factor in determining status gets minimized in an industrial society. Position of women. Industrialization and specialization has facilitated women to enter into wider life, which has altered their outlook and liberated them from exclusiveness of domesticity, deviance and anomie. The industrial society is a mass society with different subcultures. Its members live under stresses and strains caused by acute competitiveness. The factories run day and night. People indulge in too many activities and work at tremendous speed. They are surrounded by complex and heterogeneous rules of behavior laid down by various agencies which impose an enormous number of constraints on human behavior. Technology and rapid social changes. Technology based on modern scientific knowledge leads to higher rate of technological innovations. These innovations in turn bring about several social changes. New technologies bring about social changes as the economic and other institutions constantly adjust to altered conditions. Industrial societies are in a constant state of rapid social change. Increasing importance of science and education. Industrial society requires a literate population to understand and make use of modern technological innovations. Formal education becomes very significant. As a result, science emerges out as a new and very important social institution. All technological innovations depend on the growth and refinement of scientific knowledge. Science is looked upon as a promising and an effective means of socio-economic progress. Similarly, education has evolved into an independent and distinct institution. Religious institutions. Religious institutions have undergone changes. People hold many different and competing religious values and beliefs. Increasing role of the state. Hereditary monarchies are replaced by democratic institutions. State, which assumes the central power in the industrial society, is more known for its welfare activities than for the regulative functions. State is increasingly involved in economic, educational, medical, military and other activities. Spread of heterogeneous culture. Industrial societies give rise to number of secondary groups such as corporations, political parties, business houses, government bureaucracies, cultural and literary associations and special purpose organizations of various kinds. Primary groups tend to lose their importance and more social life takes place in the context of secondary groups. New lifestyles and values create a much more heterogeneous culture which spreads its influence far and wide. Capitalism, exploitation, class conflicts, cultural lags, impersonality of relationships, predominance of individualism and mechanical life are the attributes of industrial social structure. The industrial society is becoming more and more dominant in the modern world and extending its influence on the other types of societies such as agricultural, tribal, etc. It has become highly successful in exploiting the natural environment in an effective manner, but this success has caused various problems as is reflected in environment pollution, exertion of scarce resources, overpopulation, the destruction of traditional occupations and communities, and the disruption of kinship systems, mass anonymity, and massive social change that constantly threatens to disorganize the existing social structure. Industrial class structure. In the agrarian society, class structure is closely linked with caste structure. By and large, the people belonging to high caste are placed high in the class as well, though today the position is changing. On the other hand, industrial class structure is different. The class of a person is decided by the class one belongs to, which in turn is based on factors like skill set, nature of occupation, etc. Sociologists have agreed broadly upon the following classification of social class in urban India. Capitalist class. During the British period, production in India became production for the market. As a result of this, internal market expanded and the class of traders engaged in internal trading grew. With the linking of the India with world market, there was a growth in class of merchants engaged in export-import business. They started investing more. Simultaneously, infrastructure improved to a great extent. Economically and socially, this class turned out to be the strongest class. Professional class. This class comprises of modern lawyers, doctors, teachers, managers and other working in modern commercial enterprise, officials working in state administrative machinery, engineers, technologists, etc. Petty traders, shopkeepers and unorganized workers. These classes have developed with the growth of modern cities and towns. The growing urban population creates demands for various kinds of needs and services. Petty shopkeepers and traders cater to these needs of urban population. A section of urban population draws its livelihood from these sources. It comprises on one hand self-employed petty shopkeepers, traders, vendors, hawkers, semi-skilled and unskilled workers in the informal sectors. The working class. This class was formed predominantly out of the pauperized peasants and rural artisans. Generally, the industrial class structure comprises of the managerial and professional occupations, which are the most highly rewarded, followed by manual workers in the skilled occupations, lower white collar employees engaged in clerical jobs, unskilled manual laborers. There is class mobility in an industrial society. A person belonging to an inferior class can join superior class by the efforts of his labor and hard work, and vice versa is equally true. Indian middle class. The middle class is a class of people in the middle of a societal hierarchy. In Weberian socio-economic terms, the middle class is broad group of people in contemporary society who are placed socio-economically between the working class and upper class. The common measures of what constitutes middle class vary significantly between cultures. The intermediate class or middle class have not only played a vital role in Indian society in every aspect of social living, but also have been the non-polar classes by reducing the ill effects of polarization. The middle class is neither poor nor rich, neither too conservative nor progressive. The middle class is socially significant since it represents everyone, everywhere. Indian middle class is not a single entity. They are categorized into different spectrums like upper middle class and lower middle class. According to Satish Deshpande, the middle class is the class that is most dependent on cultural capital and on the mechanisms for the reproduction of such capital. For the middle class, such cultural capital may consist of particular types of identities like caste, community or region, and competencies like educational credentials, linguistic and other social skills. As an increasingly differentiated class, middle class specializes in the production and dissemination of ideologies. When we try to understand middle class, it is founded to be theoretically located at the confluence of economy, society and polity. But the class in Marxian sense is the theoretical principle by which society may be divided into distinct groups. His two-class scheme, bourgeois or capitalist and proletariat or working class, may be a useful device for model building in economic and political theory. But the intermediate or middle classes have been the most important non-polar classes. Thus, the middleness of the middle class is understood largely in the context of bipolar schemes of two classes as per the Marxist analogy. Emergence of Indian middle class. A new middle class began to emerge in India in the middle of 19th century in the womb of an ancient hierarchical society which was not shaped by classes, in fact by caste and communities. Despite its enormous growth in size, importance, its role and presence in last 200 years, the caste and communities have not disappeared from the Indian middle class. 𝗳𝗶𝗵𝗸 opines that the new middle class first emerged in the presidency capitals of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras, in law courts, hospitals, banks and offices set up for commercial, administrative and other purposes. India's middle class was the creation of British rule and the introduction of English education in the country. The formation of modern middle class in India can be traced to colonial era when Macaulay's policy of promoting Western education in English was adopted. The establishment of schools and colleges to impart Western education to Indians so as to cater to the needs of an expanding bureaucracy gave rise to a class of white-collar workers, managers and professionals who were influenced by Western values of universalism, egalitarianism, freedom and democracy. This class produced many important personalities, both men and women, who played a prominent role in various reform movements and in the nationalist movements. Several members of this class became influential politicians, lawyers and administrators and as such role models for others. In the states of peninsular India, several leaders of the backward class movements, whose initial stirrings may be traced back to the 19th century, considered access to Western education and adequate representation in the legislatures and the bureaucracy as critical emancipation of their classes. It was the middle class which organized the public opinion, mobilized masses and led the freedom struggle against that rule. However, there are no accurate figures for the numerical strength of the middle class in 1947. It would, however, be accurate to say that in relation to the absolute numbers of the poor, it was a minority not exceeding 10% of the population. The upper caste dominated by Indian middle class at that time. Prominent among its members were Punjabi Khatris, Kashmiri Pandits and South Indian Brahmins. Then there were the traditional urban oriented professional castes such as Nagars of Gujarat, the Chitpavans and Chandrasena Kayasth Prabhus of Maharashtra and Kayasts of North India. Also were included the old elite groups which emerged during the colonial rule, the Prabhasi and Bhadralok Bengalis, the Parsis and the upper crust of Muslims and Christians. Even after independence, middle class played a very crucial role in shaping up the country in political, social, economic, cultural and technological spheres. There are indications that the pace of the formation of the middle class has gathered momentum after independence. The developmental activities of the government increased after independence the size of the middle class and made it significant social category because members of this class have found a firm foothold in the government bureaucracy. The estimates of the size of the middle class vary because there is no fixed definition of middle class. The present middle class has a wider horizon. The middle class thus is a highly heterogeneous social category. The heterogeneity has increased in past few decades. Although the upper castes such as Brahmins, Kayas and Rajputs constitute a significant proportion of the middle class, the share of the non-twice born caste in it is not negligible, and that share is increasing. Though caste, religion have a role to play, the most crucial determinants of contemporary middle class is income, education and occupation. The backbone of middle class is a particular type of occupational system which is usually white collar. The distinctiveness in the occupational system of Indian middle class is highly distinguished spectrum with clerical and other subordinate non-manual occupations at one end, leading to superior, professional, managerial and administrative ones at the other. These occupations enjoy unequal esteem and authority and are unequally paid, and these income inequalities have risen to a great extent, imparting more heterogeneity. Middle class occupations are non-manual and require some measure of formal education. The growth of middle class is accompanied by the growth of new educational system. The social heterogeneity of the middle class makes it difficult to speak of a unique middle class culture. Yet, some common cultural markers of this class can be identified. One such feature given by 𝗵𝗫 is the trend towards secularization noticed in the lifestyle of its members. The secularizing trend exhibits itself in compartmentalization of rituals and of purity and pollution considerations. This can be seen in the increasing commensality among the members of the middle class. Apart from heterogeneity as a significant character of middle class, another feature is middle class of a particular place may not be similar to the middle class of another place. For instance, middle class of cities of Hyderabad and Delhi may vary immensely owing to differences in the cost and standard of living, cultural variations, differences in the priorities, etc. It is apparent that the concept of middle class has changed over a period of time and place, with exception its heterogeneity and its intermediate location. The concepts of democracy, secularism, human rights, social security, social justice and welfare state are all parts of middle class philosophy and ideology. The Indian middle class of post 1990. In 1991, India embarked on a process of economic reform, opening up its economy and inviting foreign investment. The Indian middle class came into new prominence, and again a relative newness was added to this class. The economic segment, which is principally related to construction of the new middle class, consists primarily of expansion of service sector of the economy and of professional white collar employment within the private sector, in particular within multinational corporations. At a structural functional level, the newness of the middle class is constituted through the newness of the economic sector, which is being considered as the apt standard for the middle class. The boundaries of the new middle class are thus constituted by a shift in the aspirations, values and orientations. Many opinions have been emerging with reference to the impact of globalization on middle class. In fact, consumerism as a feature of Indian middle class is courtesy globalization. It is of course debatable whether Indian middle class has benefited by consumerism and to what extent consumerism is utilitarian. The public discourses that began during early 1990s while debating the character of Indian middle class portray a dual picture. On one side, the proponents of economic liberalization see the middle class as a sizable market that should attract multinational companies. Idealized images of the urban middle class in the print media and television contribute to the production of images of an affluent consumer and who has finally achieved the ability to exercise choice through consumption. On the other hand, critics of liberalization often point to the negative social and cultural impact of consumerism and condemn the middle class for its vulnerability to the excesses of consumerism. An understanding of the role of the middle class requires analysis, which goes beyond self-evident assertions of consumerism and to explore the underlying structural effects. The liberalization package, which was customized to make India play an instrumental role in globalization, instantly put the middle class on the pedestal for its consuming ability and purchasing power. In this process, the size of the Indian middle class suddenly became significant. Several figures emerged ranging from 200 million to 500 million. Several systematic surveys were carried out to reinforce perception with facts. It is a difficult analysis to exactly designate the percentage or the size of the middle class in India. However, the most agreeable size is around 400 million, that is around 39% of Indian population. The market surveys reveal that the sales of various types of consumer goods ranging from clothes to color televisions, cars, washing machines, etc. have been registering a steady growth. Unlike earlier generations of the middle class, which were influenced by nationalist ideals and the Gandhian values of frugality, members of the present generation aspire to be a consumerist lifestyle which stresses the acquisition and display of various consumer goods. Commenting on this aspect of middle class culture, 𝗵𝗫𝗧𝗏 notes that middle class parents, instead of patriotically encouraging their children who have settled abroad to return to country, now want them to stay there and are even proud of their new status as non-resident Indians. According to him, such emigration has become so widespread that having at least one member among close kin living abroad has now become an essential attribute of the middle class. The consumerist, instrumentalist and for that matter the secular aspects of lifestyle suggest that the middle class is affected by the secularization process. Secularization is a process which implies that what was previously regarded as religious is now ceasing to be such, and it also implies the process of differentiation which results in various aspects of society, that is, economic, political, legal, moral, becoming increasingly discrete in relation to each other. It, however, does not imply that the importance of religion has reduced in the life of middle class. Contemporary urban middle class consists of heterogeneous social layer of different castes, religious and income group of people. They also form a composite intermediate layer consisting of a wide range of occupational interests but are bound by a common lifestyle and stand for certain values. The important characteristics of contemporary Indian middle class in the view of globalization are importance to education, especially technical and professional, white collar occupation or employment, tremendous diversity in pay packages, diversity in economic aspect is reflected in lifestyles with a wide spectrum, users of consumer durables and services ranging from colored televisions, VCDs, cars, credit cards, ATMs, mobile phones, etc. increasing usage of technology in day-to-day activities like personal computer, microwave, etc., growing individualism, more emphasis on nuclear family structure, increase in number of working women, increasing impact of Western culture, passive inclination towards the political system. 𝗳𝗏𝗃 has summarized the important characteristics of Indian middle class. The middle classes are recognized on the earning, rather the caste they belong to, though most middle class people are derived from higher and middle castes. These people generally have more than one source of income, speak business language including English, own property and vehicles, have surplus money and pay their income tax. It is estimated that about 1/3 of the Indian urban population falls into this category. Their world views and values, they value education and are willing to pay any amount to get their children to the best education. They realize that the way to success is through education, that too English education. Education made them to think, exposed them to new world of opportunities. Their higher and specialized education makes them think technologically, since they can access modern technological gadgets like TV, telephone, fax, internet, computer and now cell phones. The central interest of middle classes is economic. Most middle classes are exposed to international market economy, thus are more globalized than localized. More modern and contemporary lifestyle and living conditions are adopted. This is also reflected in choosing marriage partners. Professionalism, efficiency and fast-paced lifestyle reflect at every phase of their lives. The tension between the traditional and modern worldviews in the minds of middle classes is evident. There is strong urge for upward mobility. Thus, they are open and willing to adapt new ideas. In India, of course, agrarian class structure has its own part to play. Yet, in the urban areas, it is industrial class structure which draws the attention. This structure is becoming more important because agriculture is more and more depending on industry. In addition, there is migration trend from rural to urban areas, and whereas there is less of mobility in the agrarian class structure, that is greater in industrial class structure, resulting in competitions. The middle class, the new elite today, is by no account homogeneous. It is composed of people of different castes, religious communities and professions. It is spread over urban as well as rural areas. Industrial revolution has brought about far-reaching consequences in the structure of societies. It led to the establishment of industrial society. In an industrial society or in metropolitan cities, the class of person is exclusively decided by the machine and industry which one owns. Generally, the industrial class structure comprises of the managerial and professional occupations which are the most highly rewarded, followed by manual workers in skilled occupations, lower white collar employees engaged in clerical jobs and the unskilled manual laborers. The advent of British rule witnessed the emergence of new elite. Education was sought to be secularized. A new system of education was introduced which gave opportunity to all sections of Indian society irrespective of caste, creed or sex. The post-independence India witnessed the emergence of new form of elite structure. The backbone of middle class is a particular type of occupational system which is usually white collar. Contemporary urban middle class consists of heterogeneous social layer of different caste, religious and income group of people. They also form a composite intermediate layer consisting of a wide range of occupational interests but are bound by a common lifestyle and stand for certain values.